Hopson. Please give us your name and address. Thank you.
Lauren Hopson, 7500 Poppin Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. My main purpose in speaking to you tonight is to give you some more information about the standardized testing of our K-2 students. Strangely, I still feel the need to do this because even though the SAT-10 was voted down last month, it is clear to me that some of you still don't get the full picture. That is okay, though, because just like children, adults don't all learn at the same pace. The first issue I would like to address is the perception that some of you have that without SAT-10, our K-2 students are not being assessed at all. This idea is frankly ridiculous. We do comprehension assessments on a weekly basis, are free to give the STAR assessment as much as we deem necessary, and we listen to our students read every day. Although I'm sure many parents appreciate the apology about some comments made on TV last week, to state that without the SAT-10 we will have no idea how our students are doing until the beginning of 4th grade is not misspeaking, but an irresponsible statement which belittles the abilities and expertise of our finest and most experienced teachers. Having said that, it is extremely important to understand that the SAT-10 or any other norm reference test that the board may recommend to replace it with is that a norm reference test. That means it doesn't really tell us if a child is proficient in their skills or not. It merely compares them to other students across the nation. Theoretically, all the children could be doing a bang-up job, but if your child scores in the 25th percentile, you may be unnecessarily concerned. Conversely, all children could be struggling across the country, but if a child scores in the 95th percentile, you may have a false sense of security about their abilities. Now, it's likely that neither of these scenarios is true, but it is important to note that we have no way of knowing which school systems have a curriculum more or less aligned to the test due to the inconsistent administration of Common Core standards state by state. Replacing the SAT-10 with a similar test will not change the reality that we may be comparing apples to oranges. I also find it curious that once the SAT-10 was voted down, an issue was made out of K-2 teachers having to use school-wide scores for their evaluations. This was painted as a negative thing. So I ask you, if this is not okay for them, why is it acceptable for hundreds of other teachers across the county? I'll answer that question for you. It simply is not. And this board should be lobbying the state to end the use of this kind of data for teacher evaluations. I also continue to take issue with the anecdotal stories about how much certain kids like test day and how if we just made it like a field day, everything would be okay. As a teacher who has experienced many field days, I can only wonder how any test given in that kind of environment can be reliable. I also think refusing to acknowledge the anxiety of other students goes against our very mission of excellence for every child. My own son is one who will simultaneously raise the system's achievement scores and completely kill the growth scores of his teacher. But if I approach testing of all students based on my son's experience, I would not deserve to have a job as an educator. Our testing regimen must be as differentiated as you require our instruction to be. A standardized test by its very nature makes that impossible. The SAT-10 does not need to be replaced with any non-mandated standardized test to judge our students' abilities. It certainly does not need to be replaced for the purposes of teacher evaluations. 2 weeks ago, I was privileged and honored to see renowned public education advocate and historian Diane Ravitch speak at an event in Nashville. She recounted an instance after No Child Left Behind was instituted in which she asked then Secretary of Education Lamar Alexander if he really thought that all children would be able to read on grade level by 2014. He said, "No, Diane, but it's good to have goals." Diane's response to that sentiment 2 weeks ago in Nashville was, "But firing teachers for not meeting a goal that no one believes is attainable is criminal." Think carefully about that before you advocate for replacing the SAT-10. Thank you.
Steve.